The morning sun cast long shadows across Windsor Castle as Catherine, Princess of Wales, stood before her wardrobe mirror, carefully considering her outfit choice. Today was different from her usual royal engagements. The phone call from King Charles 3 days earlier had been brief but significant, requesting her presence at a high-profile, it's a charity gala that would typically see other senior royals. Take center stage. Kate had noticed subtle changes in the royal dynamics over recent months. The king had been increasingly vocal about streamlining the monarchy, focusing on working royals who could effectively represent the crown's modern values. While she had always been dedicated to her duties, this particular invitation felt weighted with unspoken meaning. Her personal secretary, Amanda, knocked gently before entering the dressing room. "Your Royal Highness, the car will be ready in 30 minutes. The press interest appears to be quite substantial today." Kate nodded, selecting an elegant navy dress that struck the perfect balance between approachable and regal. She had learned early in her royal journey that every choice, from jewelry to shoe color, would be scrutinized and interpreted. As she applied her makeup with practiced precision, Kate reflected on her journey from a middle-class girl from Berkshire to one of the most photographed women in the world. The transformation hadn't been overnight, and each public appearance had taught her valuable lessons about the delicate art of royal representation. William had left early for his own engagements, but not before offering words of encouragement. "You'll be brilliant, as always," he had said, kissing her goodbye. Their partnership had evolved into something beautifully synchronous, each understanding their role in supporting both each other and the institution they served. The charity gala was for a cause close to Kate's heart: early childhood development. She had spent years researching and advocating for better support systems for young children and their families. Her passion for the subject was genuine, born from her own experiences as a mother and her growing understanding of how crucial the early years were for lifelong well-being. As she descended the grand staircase, Kate's security team briefed her on the evening schedule. The guest list was impressive, featuring celebrities, politicians, and international dignitaries. What made this evening unique was the level of media attention focused specifically on her role. Rather than sharing the spotlight with other senior royals, the drive-through London's evening traffic gave Kate time to review her speech notes one final time. She had insisted on writing much of it herself, wanting her words to reflect her genuine commitment to the cause. Public speaking had once terrified her, but years of practice had transformed her into a confident and compelling speaker. Upon arriving at the prestigious venue, the camera flashes were immediate and intense. Kate stepped from the car with the grace that had become her trademark, offering warm smiles to the gathered crowd. The energy was electric, and she could sense something different in the atmosphere, an anticipation that went beyond the usual royal event excitement. Inside the venue, Kate moved through the reception with natural ease, engaging with guests from all walks of life. Her ability to make genuine connections with people, regardless of their background, had become one of her most valued royal qualities. Conversations flowed from discussing childhood education with professors to sharing parenting experiences with celebrity guests. The evening's program positioned Kate as the keynote speaker, a role typically reserved for the most senior royals. As she was introduced to the stage, the applause was thunderous and sustained. Standing behind the podium, looking out at the distinguished audience, Kate felt the weight of the moment and the significance of her prominent positioning in tonight's events. Kate's speech that evening resonated far beyond the elegant ballroom where she delivered it. Her words about childhood development, spoken with genuine passion and backed by years of research, captivated the audience. She spoke without notes for several minutes, sharing personal anecdotes about her own children's milestones and the universal challenges parents face. The media response was immediate and overwhelming. Royal correspondents, who had covered hundreds of similar events, noted something distinctly different about Kate's presence that night. She had commanded the room with an authority that seemed to signal a new chapter in her royal role. Social media exploded with clips of her speech, garnering millions of views within hours. Behind the scenes, palace staff were already fielding unprecedented levels of media interest. Phone calls poured in from international news outlets requesting exclusive interviews and follow-up features. The royal communications team, usually measured in their responses, found themselves navigating a level of attention typically reserved for major royal announcements. The following morning, Kate woke to find her photograph dominating front pages across the globe. Headlines ranged from glowing reviews of her speech to speculation about her evolving role within the monarchy. The image editors had chosen showed her mid-speech, eyes bright with conviction, gesturing expressively as she made a particularly powerful point about supporting vulnerable children. At breakfast, William showed her the coverage on his tablet, his expression mixing pride with amusement at the media frenzy. "I think you might have started something," he said, scrolling through the endless stream of positive commentary. Even traditionally critical publications had found little to fault in her performance, instead focusing on her growing confidence and natural leadership qualities. King Charles called before 9 a.m., his voice warm with approval. The conversation was brief, but significant. He expressed his delight with the previous evening's success and hinted at two upcoming opportunities that would allow Kate to further develop her public profile. The subtext was clear. This prominent appearance had been a test, and she had passed with flying colors. The palace's official social media account saw unprecedented engagement. Kate's Instagram post, thanking the charity and highlighting the cause, had received more likes and shares than any previous royal social media content. Young people in particular were responding enthusiastically to her authentic approach to discussing important social issues. International media began drawing comparisons to other influential royal figures, noting Kate's unique ability to blend traditional royal dignity with contemporary relevance. Fashion magazines dissected every detail of her appearance, but the focus had notably shifted from purely aesthetic considerations to her role as a serious advocate for social change. By midday, charitable organizations across the country were reporting surge in donations and volunteer inquiries. Kate's emphasis on early childhood development had struck a chord with the public. Translating into tangible support for related causes, this real-world impact pleased Kate more than any media praise could. The Royal Diary team began receiving requests for Kate to speak at similar high-profile events. Universities wanted her to deliver commencement addresses. International conferences sought her as a keynote speaker, and prestigious award ceremonies requested her presence. The level of demand suggested her public profile had shifted significantly overnight. That afternoon, Kate visited a local children's center, a previously scheduled engagement that took on new meaning given the morning's media coverage. The staff and families she met there had seen the news and were visibly excited to meet her. Children who might normally be shy around strangers approached her with confidence, somehow sensing her genuine interest in their well-being. The photographer accompanying her that day captured moments of natural interaction that seemed to encapsulate everything the media was celebrating about Kate's evolving role. Images of her reading stories, participating in craft activities, and listening intently to parents' concerns painted a picture of a royal who was comfortable in her own skin and committed to meaningful engagement. Within a week of the charity gala, Kate's calendar began filling with requests that would have been unimaginable just months earlier. The palace received an invitation for her to address the United Nations General Assembly on childhood development, an honor typically extended only to heads of state or Nobel Prize winners. The significance of this request was not lost on anyone in royal circles. Kate spent considerable time preparing for what would be her most important speech to date. She worked closely with child development experts, economists, and education specialists to craft a presentation that would be both compelling and substantive. This wasn't just about delivering beautiful words. She wanted to present actionable solutions to global challenges affecting children. The night before her unappearance, Kate couldn't sleep. She walked through the apartment, checking on her own children as they slept peacefully. The weight of speaking for millions of children worldwide, who lacked the safety and opportunities her own children enjoyed, felt enormous. Yet rather than overwhelming her, this responsibility energized her sense of purpose. Her UN speech exceeded even the highest expectations, addressing delegates from 193 countries. Kate spoke with authority about the economic benefits of early childhood investment, the long-term societal impacts of educational inequality, and the moral imperative to protect the world's most vulnerable children. Her presentation included personal stories from her royal engagements. Giving human faces to complex policy issues, the standing ovation lasted over 5 minutes. An unusual display of enthusiasm in the typically reserved environment. Delegates from countries across the political spectrum approached her afterward, expressing genuine interest in collaboration and policy development. Several nations announced immediate increases in their childhood development funding, citing Kate's presentation as influential in their decision. International media coverage was extraordinary. Major newspapers published full transcripts of her speech, while television networks created special documentary segments exploring her arguments. Academic journals requested permission to reprint sections of her remarks, and business publications analyzed the economic data she had presented. The reaction in Britain was equally remarkable. Opposition politicians, usually quick to criticize royal involvement in policy areas, found themselves praising Kate's contribution to important national conversations. The Prime Minister publicly commended her work, suggesting potential collaboration between her charitable initiatives and government. Policy development public polling showed Kate's approval ratings reaching unprecedented heights. More significantly, the polls indicated that young people, traditionally less interested in the royal family, were now paying attention to her work. University students organized discussion groups around her UN speech, and young professionals cited her as an inspiration for their own charitable involvement. The fashion industry, while still interested in her style choices, began focusing more on the symbolism behind her clothing selections. Her decision to wear pieces from sustainable fashion brands, or jewelry with meaningful cultural significance, was analyzed as carefully as her policy positions. This evolution in coverage reflected a broader shift in how she was perceived publicly. Behind the scenes, palace dynamics were shifting noticeably. Senior courtiers who had previously viewed Kate as a supporting player began seeking her input on broader royal family strategies. Her success in capturing public imagination and generating positive international coverage had demonstrated her value as more than just William's wife or the children's mother, the Queen Consort. Camilla was among the first to acknowledge Kate's evolving role. During a private lunch, she expressed admiration for Kate's natural ability to connect serious advocacy with royal tradition. This endorsement from someone who had navigated her own complex path into the royal family carried particular weight. European royal families began reaching out, inviting Kate to participate in international conferences and collaborative initiatives. Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden called personally to discuss potential joint projects on childhood development. These international relationships were adding a diplomatic dimension to Kate's role that extended beyond traditional royal duties. Most importantly for Kate, the real-world impact of her advocacy was becoming measurable. Charitable organizations reported significant increases in both donations and volunteer applications. Government officials confirmed that her UN speech had influenced policy discussions in multiple countries. Educational institutions were implementing programs inspired by her recommendations. The transformation in Kate's public role became undeniable when Buckingham Palace announced a significant restructuring of royal responsibilities. King Charles, in a carefully worded statement, designated Kate as the official royal patron for global childhood development, a newly created position that would coordinate international efforts and represent Britain's commitment to children's welfare worldwide. This announcement sent shockwaves through royal watching circles. Never before had such a prominent, policy-focused role been created specifically for a royal family member who wasn't a direct heir to the throne. Constitutional experts debated the implications, while media commentators speculated about the king's long-term vision for modernizing the monarchy. Kate's first major initiative in her new role was launching a comprehensive research project partnering with leading universities across 5 countries. The scope was ambitious, studying early childhood development across different cultural and economic contexts to develop universally applicable best practices. Her personal involvement in designing the research parameters impressed academic partners. the international business community began taking notice of Kate's influence. Major corporations started approaching her team about potential partnerships, recognizing that association with her childhood development work could enhance their corporate social responsibility profiles while contributing to meaningful change. These conversations marked a new type of royal engagement with private sector organizations. During a state visit from the Canadian Prime Minister, Kate was included in formal diplomatic discussions for the first time. Her expertise in childhood development policy had become relevant to international relations, as countries increasingly recognized early childhood investment as crucial for economic competitiveness and social stability. Her presence at such high-level meetings represented a significant evolution in royal protocol. The media landscape around Kate continued evolving dramatically. Traditional royal correspondents found themselves working alongside education journalists, policy experts, and international development reporters to cover her activities comprehensively. This expanded coverage reflected the substantive nature of her work and its relevance beyond traditional royal watching audiences. Social media engagement. With Kate's content reached levels typically associated with entertainment, celebrities, rather than royal family members. Her Instagram posts about childhood development issues regularly received millions of interactions, and her ability to explain complex policy concepts in accessible language had created a new model for royal communication in the digital age. Young parents, in particular, connected strongly with Kate's advocacy. Parenting forums buzzed with discussions of her recommendations, and early childhood education programs reported increased enrollment after her public endorsements. This grassroots impact demonstrated her ability to influence individual behavior alongside policy development. The financial markets began responding to Kate's initiatives as well. Companies focused on early childhood education, child nutrition, and family welfare saw stock price increases following her public endorsements or partnership announcements. Investment funds started creating portfolios based on CAT-approved social impact investments. Recognizing the commercial value of her influence, international speaking engagements proliferated beyond what the royal schedule could accommodate. Harvard Business School requested her participation in a case study development project. The World Health Organization invited her to chair a commission on global childhood health. Major foundations offered to fund research initiatives under her leadership. Behind these public successes, Kate was working harder than ever before. Her days began with briefings from policy experts and ended with reviewing research proposals or speech drafts. The intellectual demands of her new role required constant learning and engagement with complex issues far beyond traditional royal duties. William adapted remarkably to his wife's expanded profile, often joking publicly about being Mr. Kate at events where she was the primary draw. Their partnership evolved to accommodate her increased independence while maintaining their unified approach to royal duties. This balance impressed observers and strengthened their public image as a modern royal couple. The palace staff expanded to support Kate's growing responsibilities. New positions were created: a policy research coordinator, an international partnerships manager, and a digital engagement specialist. These additions reflected the professional infrastructure needed to support her substantive work rather than traditional royal ceremonial duties. Critics, who had initially dismissed her charitable work as superficial, found themselves unable to argue with the measurable outcomes she was achieving. Academic publications cited her speeches. Government reports referenced her research initiatives, and international organizations sought her input on policy development. The substance behind her public profile had become undeniable. The culmination of Kate's remarkable transformation came when she received an invitation to deliver the keynote address at the G20 Summit's special session on human development. This was unprecedented territory for a member of the British royal family, placing her alongside world leaders and international organization heads as a recognized authority on global policy issues. Preparation for the G20 address required months of intensive work. Kate collaborated with economists, child psychologists, and development experts from around the world to craft a presentation that would challenge world leaders to prioritize early childhood investment as essential infrastructure. For economic growth and social stability, the stakes were enormous, as any misstep would reflect not just on her personally, but on the monarchy's credibility in serious policy discussions. The night before her G20 appearance, Kate received a personal call from her father-in-law. King Charles expressed his complete confidence in her abilities, while acknowledging the historic nature of what she was about to accomplish. "You're not just representing yourself tomorrow," he said warmly. "You're showing the world what the modern monarchy can contribute to solving real problems." Standing before the assembled G20 leaders, Kate delivered what many observers later called the most compelling presentation of the entire summit. She challenged each nation to commit specific percentages of their GDP to early childhood development, backed her arguments with rigorous economic data, and shared stories from her global travels that put human faces on policy statistics. The immediate response exceeded all expectations. Before the session ended, 7 countries announced significant increases in their childhood development funding. The European Union committed to creating a new early childhood investment framework. Most remarkably, several nations requested bilateral meetings with Kate to discuss implementation strategies for her recommendations. Media coverage of her G20 appearance dominated international headlines for days. Major newspapers published editorial pieces calling her speech a watershed moment in global development policy. Television networks created special programs analyzing the immediate policy changes triggered by her presentation. Academic conferences were organized specifically to examine the implications of her arguments. The personal cost of her success was becoming apparent. To those closest to Kate, the intensity of preparation for major speeches, the constant travel for international engagements, and the intellectual demands of staying current with complex policy issues were exhausting, yet she approached each challenge with remarkable energy and evident satisfaction in the meaningful work she was accomplishing. Public polling showed that Kate's influence extended far beyond traditional royal family metrics. International surveys indicated that young people worldwide viewed her as one of the most trusted voices on social policy issues. Parents across different countries reported being influenced by her recommendations in their own child-rearing decisions. The commercial impact of Kate's advocacy continued growing exponentially. Companies producing educational materials, children's books, and developmental toys reported substantial sales increases following her public endorsements. Government procurement departments began referencing her research recommendations when selecting early childhood education programs. Universities worldwide began offering courses examining Kate's policy contributions and communication strategies. Business schools developed case studies around her successful transition from traditional royal duties to substantive global leadership. Communication departments analyzed her speeches as models for effective public advocacy. Her relationship with traditional royal duties evolved as well. When she attended ceremonial events, Kate found ways to incorporate her advocacy themes, turning ribbon-cutting ceremonies into opportunities to highlight childhood development issues. This integration demonstrated her commitment to using every platform available for advancing her cause. The royal family's weekly meetings now regularly included substantial time discussing Kate's international engagements and their implications for British foreign policy. Her work had become integral to how Britain projected soft power internationally, with diplomats reporting that her advocacy opened doors for broader diplomatic initiatives and international recognition culminated when Kate was awarded the Global Humanitarian Leadership Prize by the United Nations Children's Fund. The citation specifically noted her success in translating royal platform privileges into measurable improvements in children's lives worldwide. The ceremony, attended by world leaders and international celebrities, represented full acceptance of her role as a serious global advocate. Behind the public accolades, Kate remained focused on practical outcomes. She established a foundation that would continue her research initiatives, created scholarship programs for students studying childhood development, and launched training programs for early childhood educators in developing countries. These institutional legacies ensured her work would continue making impact regardless of future royal role changes. 1 year after that first prominent charity gala appearance, Kate stood in her private office at Kensington Palace, reviewing documents that would have been unimaginable just 12 months earlier. Reports from 43 countries detailed policy changes influenced by her advocacy. University research proposals sought her endorsement for childhood development studies. International organizations requested her input on global education strategies. The transformation had been extraordinary. But perhaps what pleased Kate most was a handwritten letter from a single mother in Manchester whose son had benefited from a new early intervention program inspired by Kate's public recommendations. These personal stories, arriving daily from around the world, reminded her why the intense work and scrutiny had been worthwhile. King Charles had privately expressed his amazement at how quickly and completely Kate had evolved into a global figure of influence. During their regular monthly meetings, he often marveled at her ability to maintain royal dignity, while engaging with complex policy issues that previous generations of royals had avoided. Her success had validated his vision for a more engaged, relevant monarchy. The media narrative around Kate had completely transformed. Articles now focused on her policy positions, research initiatives, and international partnerships rather than fashion choices or family dynamics. Major publications assigned their most senior correspondents to cover her work. Recognizing that her activities warranted serious journalistic attention, publishers competed to secure book deals for Kate's memoirs. Not seeking royal gossip, but hoping to document her successful transition from ceremonial figure to global advocate. Academic presses requested permission to publish collections of her speeches, while policy journals sought regular contributions from her research team. The ripple effects of Kate's prominence continued expanding in unexpected directions. Tourism to Britain increased as international visitors sought to visit sites connected to her childhood development initiatives. Educational institutions reported increased applications from students interested in careers inspired by her work. The Kate effect had evolved beyond fashion influence to impact career choices and educational priorities. Her children, now old enough to understand their mother's work, expressed pride in her achievements during rare public statements. Prince George mentioned wanting to continue his mother's work when he grew up, while Princess Charlotte spoke knowledgeably about early childhood education during a school project presentation that was later shared widely on social media. William's role had adapted seamlessly to support Kate's expanded influence while maintaining his own significant royal responsibilities. Their partnership had become a model for modern royal couples, demonstrating how traditional institutions could evolve to maximize individual talents while serving broader purposes. International collaborations initiated through Kate's work were producing measurable results. Joint research projects between universities on different continents were yielding new insights into childhood development. Government policy exchanges facilitated by her advocacy were improving educational outcomes in multiple countries. The economic impact of Kate's initiatives was becoming quantifiable. Development economists calculated that policy changes influenced by her advocacy would generate billions in long-term economic benefits through improved educational outcomes and reduced social service costs. These calculations impressed finance ministers and strengthened support for her recommendations. Corporate partnerships continued expanding as businesses recognized the commercial value of association with Kate's work. These relationships provided funding for research initiatives while creating new markets for educational products and services aligned with her advocacy priorities. The private sector had become an essential partner in her global efforts. Looking back on her journey, Kate reflected on how that single prominent appearance at a charity gala had opened doors she never could have imagined. The combination of royal platform, personal passion, and dedicated preparation had created opportunities to influence global conversations about issues affecting millions of children worldwide as she prepared for her next international engagement. Kate felt profound satisfaction in having found meaningful purpose within the constraints and opportunities of royal life. Her success had demonstrated that traditional institutions could adapt to address contemporary challenges while maintaining their essential character and dignity. The telephone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Another world leader was requesting a consultation on early childhood policy. Kate smiled as she reached for the phone, ready to continue the work that had transformed both her life and her understanding of what royal service could accomplish in the modern world. The surprise move from the king had indeed created something extraordinary, leaving royal fans and global observers talking about possibilities they had never before considered achievable.